Hey y'all, I am Hope here at Crafty Hope and welcome. It is day 91 of the 100-day project. Not when you're watching this, when I'm filming it. I am working on my Not Precious project and there's 9-10 days, I guess how you count it. If you count today, I don't know. Anyway, we're winding down here of this 100-day project and me trying to use some of my things that I have thought were too precious to actually use. And today I pulled out of my bucket of things that I had gathered these two items. So this is, y'all, it's some kind of pressure gauge, I would assume. And it is completely icky and rusty, probably also burned. I found, I don't know, in my neighborhood I remember if I was walking or driving through and I saw a pile of rusty things on the side of the road, pulled over, threw it in the back of my car and took off. And I'm still using those rusty things, but this was probably my favorite thing in that because it's got this little brass dial on it and everything. So I'm trying to decide how I want to alter this. I also have these thumbtacks I picked up for 10 cents, I think. Oh, yeah. 10 cents at a yard sale. And first thing I'm gonna do is change the battery because it is blinking at me. Okay, so the next thing I'm gonna do is I kind of want to see, okay, so I've got this box. We laser cut it and glued it together forever ago, not long after we got the laser cutter, I think. Yeah, it's the second thing we made on the laser cutter with my dimensions, and this just happens to fit in there kind of perfectly. So and I may have had this in mind when I did it. So I kind of want to know if these thumbtacks, and you can see that, y'all, they are not in good condition. I kind of like them on the card, but I also want to know if I can poke them into this wood as a border. So let me see. I'm possibly just going to destroy this box, but I did make this box, so I think I can. Y'all, I think I can. I hope there's enough there, and I kind of like that they're a little rough, but I like the pops of red, and yeah. So I think I may be altering this box. Not do that. Yeah, might have to bring out a hammer. I don't know. So I need to figure out what I want to do with this box first and foremost. And, yeah, then I kind of want to have this gauge say something on it, but I don't know what yet. So I'm going to think on it. Meanwhile, figure out maybe what to do with the inside and outside of this box. I don't know. All right, let me get to pondering and get this underway. Ooh, I got to get some of this wood glue out of here. Yeah. So I do start by sanding around the outside edges of this box before I really delve into altering it. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, if you saw the title of this, you'll know that it took me 8 days to alter this box. So I have condensed it all down into less than 40 minutes. Some of these things I have sped way up and kind of skipped over where I'm painting things. Not skipped over, but here, I'm going to gesso the outside of this box and then kind of take a look at it and decide I also want to gesso the inside of it. I'm using black gesso. But y'all, I really, this project was pretty simple. For the fact that it took 8 days to do it, it was just a lot of steps. It wasn't anything super complicated. So I wanted to get this down to a manageable size for you to watch in one sitting, or maybe a couple sittings, or it's just to be one video instead of breaking it down. I've also, the 100-day project ended, when did it end? The end of May. And it's the middle of October, and it's almost the end of October. I've got to get these done so that I can start sharing other things with y'all. So that's why I've kind of just sped this up. Gonna let you see it. If you have any questions about this, I am going to have the little introductions I've done each day for these, because that helps me remember what my mindset was and what what my intention was, and it helps me as I'm recording these voiceovers and kind of telling you what I'm doing. So, as I said, I found this gauge several years ago. I get like 6 years ago maybe, and so it's been in my stash far too long, being far too precious. um so yeah, and it's time to alter it. So as you saw, I altered that box that was laser cut, and now I'm actually working on this gauge. I took some deli paper to my typewriter and typed up the phrases "too much," "not enough," and "just right." And I'm going to put those inside this gauge. I first took a baby wipe and kind of cleaned up some of the grit and grime that was on there. And now I'm using fluid matte medium to stick it in there. It is going to be a little bit fiddly and kind of hard to see. I don't want this to stand out like a huge amount. But I do want something to be in there, this gauge to represent something. And I want it to be like, you know, some people may think you're too much. Some people may think you're not enough, but really you are just right. If you're an artist, you know, you don't have to always be the biggest, boldest, loudest thing. I know I'm not. I am subtle for the most part, but I'm also not enough. So I feel like that's what this is about for me. So I'm going to go ahead and go over the rest of this with that fluid matte medium just to kind of make the whole surface a little more even feeling, and then we'll get on to the next day of this 92. Yep, that's right. It is day 92. And I kind of stopped with altering the box and the gauge here, and have decided that I'm going to kind of focus on the box for a little while, and we'll get back to the gauge. So, and if I've mentioned on my 100-day project before, my goal is not to work with 100 things or make 100 things or alter 100 things. It's just to every day for 100 days work with some of my precious things. So I'm working with this, but kind of, yeah. So the box is what I'm focusing on. So I've decided that I did paint gesso it black, basically to cover the wood grain on it and everything. And so, but I kind of have some other ideas that I woke up with. So we're going to play with those. I'm going to start by putting a layer of, well, I kind of want to do an off-white paint. So I've got some brown paints I'm going to add into this white, and we're going to see if we can get it up. So these next 2 days, this day 92 and the next day 93, are probably two of my favorite days of this entire project, and that's altering the outside of this box. I had so much fun with it. So I did start by mixing up, like I said, some browns along with some Lucas titanium white to get an off-white, and I just wanted a base. I just had a general idea of what I wanted to do on this box. So you can see I've sped this up quite a bit, and you're not even going to see all of this. I did add a little bit of yellow ochre, you can see in there, because it wasn't quite enough. So a bit of playing. I am not going to make you watch all of me painting this. You'll get to see some of the sides of all this, some of the altering this. So I did paint all of the outside of that box, and then I am going to lightly go over the edges of it as well. I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do in the inside yet, so I'm going around those edges, and then I'm going to grab a paper towel. I think it's a paper towel, maybe a baby wipe. Let's see. I think it's just a paper towel. No, it must be a baby wipe, and push it back just a little bit to reveal some of the black that is on there. Just a baby wipe on some of that off-white that I've got on there, and yeah, where I also accidentally got it. So once I get this done and let it dry for a second, I am going to mix up some texture paste. Y'all, I make this using powdered plaster of Paris, white gesso, and a little bit of like spackle. Now I am going to spread this on all 4 sides of this. I'm only going to show you like 1 or 2 sides at a time, because I am letting it dry between coats. So you can see I'm I'm using a big tongue depressor there, spreading it. I'm using a scraper tool. I'm really just trying to get some texture. And you can see I'm also not covering the entire thing with my texture paste. I'm leaving some of that little bit of white and black, well, off-white and black that I put on there. I'm going to come in with kind of a bristly paintbrush. So I'm looking for that to get a little bit of texture as well, to pull that paint up and give it kind of an aged almost, I don't know, like an Adobe or old house kind of feel. So I am, like I said, going to do this on all 4 sides, leaving it to dry between sides until it's hard enough. So you can see I'm kind of doing the same thing. None of these sides are going to be exactly the same. And then when I'm going to leave this to dry overnight and then come back in and start altering it some more. So we're going to get to that here in just a second for day 93. It is day 93, and my little, I don't know, texture paste that I put over the sides has worked out pretty beautifully. Now I want to accentuate that texture some, and I'm gonna do something again a little. This whole thing is very experimental. I don't know if you noticed, I got some of the texture paste here on this, and I cannot scrape it off. So that tells you that the stuff is hardened pretty well. So, and it's been drying for like 24 hours. I was going to do this before that, but I just didn't feel comfortable with it. So anyway, I'm going to start with a wash of, I think maybe more of this raw umber. And all of this is an experiment for me to see how it works, because yeah, we'll see. So I've got some of this raw umber. I've got other browns too that might work. There's not much of this left in here. I may end up having to cut this open at some point to get it. Looks like it's trying to come out the top here. Oh, that's crazy. All right, let's see what I can get out the bottom, and then we'll see if I can split it open later. So I basically created a wash using some of this brown paint. I'm going to pull in some fluid matte medium along with some water just to get kind of a watery paint. Yeah, a wash. And this whole side, if you remember seeing this on Instagram when I revealed it, you know this is not going to be brown at all. But this day was my absolute favorite of this entire 8-day process, was altering the side. I love making texture and creating texture and accentuating that texture, and that's what this day is absolutely about. So this was a definite big process of going back and forth between things. So again, I'm only going to show you a side or two and then kind of skip ahead to the next step, because I don't want this to be super long. So you can see I put that wash down on my texture paste, and then I've got a baby wipe that I'm using to kind of rub on there. I'm trying to get into some of those cracks and crevices. I think I'm starting to realize that that wash is maybe a little bit thicker than I really want, but it's totally giving that brown. Look at that luscious paper. I mean, what is it? Baby wipe. Anyway, so I'm going to do this on all 4 sides here. I'm going to add a little bit more water, because that just, I was working a little too hard for that. So here you can see I'm going to put it down and have a little more luck with, I even wet my paintbrush there and got more water on it to kind of help me work it into those cracks and crevices. And then, picking it up with that dirty baby wipe. So I will turn this and then work on the other side. I will dry. Once I get 2 sides done, I dry it and then work on the other 2. Once I got all 4 sides with that wash, I decided what I want to do is I want to make this like a yellow-orange color. So I've taken some of my texture paste from before in a separate cup, and I have added some Indian yellow acrylic paint, some of that original wash that's in there. You can see I'm just kind of mixing up all kinds of things. I'm probably going to add more of that yellow in just a second. Trying to get just the color I want. Yep, there's more of that yellow. definitely just mixing this, and I'm once again using that big tongue depressor to spread this out across this. And again, I'm not covering the whole thing. I'm covering most of it. I'm getting messy as well, but I was like, you know what? I'll probably be pulling out something in a minute. So I'm going for it and just scraping that and moving it. And so the texture underneath the tongue depressor that already has dried texture paste on it, all of that is lending texture to this. But I think I'm going to pull in, oh my gosh, how far away did I walk to get this? That is a super bristly brush. I don't know what it's used for. I think I've picked up at the Dollar Tree. There's a set with like a brass one, and I don't know, but it I just kind of tapped it on there to get texture. I've got a clean brush that I'm going back over some areas to push some of it back. And then I'm going to get, here in just a second, some more of that yellow paint out in a palette and just lightly tap it in a couple different areas, just so that there's some color variation on there. So it's not all kind of this flat yellow color. And like I said, I'm going to do this to all four sides of this box. So that's why I've cut this out, because y'all don't need to see me do all four sides of this. It was very painstaking, but it was very much, I enjoyed it immensely. What I especially love is coming back in with this, again, this wash. So I'm glad I made so much of it, because once again, I'm going to go back over this. I don't want this to be that bright yellow. I want to push it back. And do you see the texture I got when I brush it over there? And again, I'm going to dab it off with that baby wipe, just kind of taking a look at it. I did that to all four sides, and then I decided I wanted something. Like I said, I didn't want that flat yellow all over. I wanted some kind of brighter color. So I'm mixing that same yellow with some orange, some more of the fluid medium, some water. Again, making another wash. Here's an even brighter yellow. Trying to get a color I want. So I'm throwing in there all kinds of stuff. Just trying to get a color I want. And at the time, and I can't tell you now what the color I had in my head was, but I had a color and I had all these paints I needed to use, so it was kind of perfect for me to just keep playing until I got the color that I wanted. And I'm once again going to, like I said, this is a wash. I'm going to go over this with that orangey color, use my baby wipe to kind of push it in different areas. I think I end up just kind of painting the whole thing at some point, but you can see how I get some of that yellow, that original yellow poking out, some of the brown that I washed over it, some of that orange in there, and I'm using these acrylic paints with an acrylic medium in the hopes that these will be permanent. And you can still kind of see some of that dark brown and the black that we originally painted on there. So that's, yeah, luscious. And then I'm going to do one final wash over this, again wiping it, and then that is just a paper towel that I am lightly dabbing it up. You can see I'm not putting near as much on there. I'm going to give you one quick look at it when I get this all dry. Gosh, look how yummy that is. When I get this dry before we get to the next day of this project. Running very low on time. I am really happy, well, pretty happy. It's not exactly the colors I envisioned, but I can definitely work with it. I want to work a little bit on the inside. I want to brush it out a little bit behind and yeah, some of that. Yeah, much better. All right, so I think I'm gonna paint it. I'm already dropping stuff back in it. Going between this turquoise and this cobalt turquoise, which I'm kind of almost on that precious list because they are paints that I bought ages ago and haven't touched because they've been too precious. I still have some white up here that I may add to it, and really I just kind of want to do maybe the darker paint up here and doing lighter up here to kind of like frame this out. And I'm reminding myself that if I don't like it, I can paint over it. So yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do just real quick today and see how it goes. Several days of this project are all going to be fairly quick additions to this project. So this is the first of those, and it's just going to be me painting the inside of this box with those two colors, the turquoise, the cobalt turquoise, and then I've added some of that same titanium white. And basically, y'all, I'm doing an ombre is what I've decided to do. I'm starting with a mix of the turquoise and the white, then doing some of the turquoise, and then a little mix of the turquoise and the cobalt turquoise, and finally a little bit of the just the cobalt turquoise. So I don't know that it comes through quite as well as I had hoped, but I definitely wanted the darker color at the bottom to kind of like give it weight at the bottom, just a visual weight. And it really, I don't know that you can tell if you look at the box in its final form, but it was something to me that, yeah, and I think at this point I had realized I was doing kind of primary colors, that I've got those red push pins that I want to frame up the front. I've done the yellow on the outside, and I'm doing this blue shade on the inside. So it's one of the brighter things I do. I've had it mentioned that I do very dark things. This is still kind of dark, but it's got all these pops of color in it. So like I said, this isn't going to take very long. I'm going ahead and showing you me going back and forth between the colors, trying to make sure I get a good smooth mix of them. And yeah, so once I get done with this, we will get to the next day. What day is that? 95? We'll see. I'll say it here in a second. It is day 95, I think. I don't know anymore, y'all. We are definitely winding down this project, and hopefully I will finish this one within the time limit. If not, okay, whatever. I actually don't think I have much more left of it. I'm sitting here looking at it. I know I want to somehow, I don't know, maybe I'll sand that. These white spots where I got the texture paste I used on the front of it somehow in my messy state. And the background ombre effect is not as like clean and pretty as I had hoped. I mean, I think it works. Because I'm going to put this in front of it, so it doesn't really matter. And I feel like I need something more in here, but I can't quite fathom what it is. So I think what I've decided to do is to do some texture with a paint pen or two. I've got these metallic, these are the water-based Sharpie ones, and this one is the, I think it's the fine point or something. It says fine. This is extra fine. Okay. Usually I use, and I also have this one, which is the, I don't know, medium. Gosh, if that's, oh, there are bigger ones. So I have all of these, but I don't like that these are two different colors. I don't know if you can see that or not. I don't know if that means they come out two different colors. That one, that's awful. Maybe it does. I don't know. I'm going to use this one. Anyway, so I think that's what I'm going to do for a little bit for today. Yeah, it's been a busy couple of days, and I'm just trying to get on by. So let's see where this takes us. Again, this is going to be a super quick step in this process. You can see I started by, I'm banging on my gauge because I realized there was all kinds of loose rusty bits in there. So yeah, I got that out, got it off my desk, disposed of it, and I'm taking a look at where the center point of my head of this gauge is. So you can see I'm using a pencil, very lightly kind of drawing around where I'm going to put it, finding a center and making basically a center line. And then I'm using those Sharpie paint pens to make dots out from that center line. I'm doing kind of a cross of it, or a plus sign from the center, and then extending out. So I started in that center and I'm just making dots, radiating out from it all the way from it. This is not beautifully done. Again, I've said this in some of my other projects. My last one with the feather, I did something similar, where I did lines on the box and I did other things, but when it's not perfect, that's fine. I'm not perfect. This is made by me, so it's okay. So I'm getting those dots, and I end up, I think, stopping at the edges of the box. I'll come back in later and add them to like the inside of the box, because I didn't like how they just abruptly ended in the corners. I've sped this up quite a bit, because it's the same motion over and over again, as you can see. So I'm just adding dots and dots, and this is so hard for y'all to see. I apologize. There's no better way for me to show you how I did this. So I'm taking a look at it, adding dots back where I'm kind of missing them, and this may be where I'm going up the sides of it. I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm going to finish this up, and then, and I'm going to sand that little bit of texture paste off, and then we'll get to day 96. It is day 96 and I'm struggling, y'all. Somewhere between trying not to overthink this but still do it justice. This, I'm looking at it yesterday, I realized it's got like where a knob or something should be here, and I kind of want to, I guess, give a nod to that. And I think I want to add, well, I want to add a button, and like literally a button. Because I have quite a selection. These are, because this does have like a thingy on it, I decided a shank button would be best, and that's great because I hardly ever use my shank buttons. I should use them more. They're great closures on like bracelets. Okay, that looked like a bead. How fun is that one? See, they are fun things. And since this has this like brass bit in the middle and I'm using the gold in the background, I thought something like one of these would work well. So I'm trying to decide how I would attach it and that kind of thing. I also want to like paint this edge here somehow. I'm thinking just using that larger gold paint pen and going over it. So that may be all I do today, just because I've got other projects I want to tackle. So, but it's something, so yeah, that's where I'm going today with this. Let's see how it progresses. This day is going to go by super fast because literally I'm going to take some E6000 and glue that button on, and then I'm going to use we'll see when we get there. But to glue this on, I kind of went back and forth. I found that this shank button kind of fit down in that hole slightly, whereas the other one didn't. And the other one had like some detail or design elements to it that you'd never see, whereas this one was pretty plain. So I'm going to level out the end of my gauge there so that when I put that button in, it is flat. I'm going to stick the lid of that jar I have the buttons in under it, just like that, and then hold the button there in the E6000 until it cures pretty nicely. So once that is sitting there, I'm going to leave it to cure, because it's going to take a while. And I decided on the black water-based Sharpie to go around the edge, just because it gave it more of a frame than I felt like the gold would. It also works really well to cover up the color that's on there. So once I get that outlined, that's it for this day. That's it. We'll get to the next day now. It is day 97. Oh my gosh, y'all, I cannot believe that after today there's 3 days left. Alright, so yesterday didn't do much. I had a lot on my mind. Today is gonna be similar. I got my little button here glued on so it looks like some kind of nozzle, or not nozzle, I don't know, adjustment thing, I don't know. And I keep thinking I want something to soften it up a little bit. And I said that to that effect on Instagram, and Barb suggested that I do a cloud. Well, as this isn't really supposed to be depicting the sky, I had a hard time really envisioning a cloud, but I knew I wanted some kind of fiber or fabric or something without obscuring this. So you see I've got this bowl full of tangled threads here, y'all. I have tons of spools of thread that are in my stash, and this one was kind of bothering me because there's all kinds of bits of tangled thread here, and I kind of want to take and get some of the threads that are hanging off and make a little bundle and maybe put that in here. So I think that's what I'm going to do today. It's not much, but these threads in general are precious-ish. So yeah, that's what I'm going to start with, these, and then I will go look in some of my other stashes and make this clump. And that may mean that we go ahead and glue this down and then figure out a way to glue in this poofy, and it may not work. This may not work at all. So yeah, let's see. Let's see. I spent much time sorting through these threads, clipping off the excess bits. I started with this bowl, and then you'll see here in a few minutes, I pull out 2 big baggies of other bags I've picked up at estate sales and thrift stores and whatever. And I'm just kind of getting the tangly bits off so I don't have to deal with untangling that thread. Did find a needle in there. So you can see I'm finishing up this last one, trying to get it done there. I've pulled out the thread. Here is where I've got 2 more baggies full of tangled threads that we're going to work, well, I'm going to work through. And it was kind of what I needed. I was able to sit there and just kind of work through these methodically, and I told you things have been kind of crazy, and this was joyous to kind of just have something methodical and meditative to sit and do. And it helped clear away some of that. You can see I'm taking a picture of it because I just thought it was neat looking into that bag. So I sorted through all of those, got this beautiful clump of tangled threads that kind of is reminiscent of a cloud. And so from there, I'm going to glue everything in. So I am going to use my E6000, which is my favorite glue for heavier pieces, or yeah, odd shaped things. I did use a big brush to kind of get any more of those bits of rusty shrapnel, I don't know what you would call it, that were falling off before I glue it in, because I don't want to glue it to one of those pieces and have the glue not make contact with the box itself. So I am trying to make sure the glue hits any portions that are raised, that will actually make contact with the box. There are parts that I can see are kind of indented, and there's no reason to put glue there because the glue won't make contact. And then I put it just right in the center, and I'm going to leave my box sitting down like that to cure for a little bit, and then come back with some Fabri-Tac and put it in the bottom of the box. I think I might even put it up on like the shaft a little bit of the gauge, and simply stick in that bundle of thread. And that'll be it for this day. And we've got one more day after this. Guess what it's going to be? One of the original things we started with. So we'll get to that right here in just a second. It's day 98, and I think we're going to get as close as we can to finishing this up today. All I really want to do is add these thumbtacks that I have been moving around on my desk for, I don't know, since I started this. And then I might try to paint the needle here, whatever. What do you call that? The pointer part. Paint that red as well. So I'm gonna get to that, and then y'all, I don't know what I'm gonna do for the next 2 days, but you probably have seen it on Instagram if you follow me there. So let me know. Shout it real quick right now. Okay, maybe I heard you. Let me do this. the first thing I'm doing to finish up this project, this is the last day of it, and I'm taking those red thumbtacks. I tried to start at the bottom, the area of that package that wasn't exposed, because the areas that were exposed, some of the enamel that was on them had flaked off. So I wanted to try to get ones that were more thoroughly painted. So, and as you can see, I'm starting in the corners because that's an exact spot, and that's a rawhide mallet so that it doesn't damage the head of those, but it still gives me the opportunity to use the hammer. And then I've got a ruler that I'm just kind of pulling and showing me what the center line is, doing my math. And I'll do the same thing across the top to find the center, and then I'll do some between each of the ones on the side. So yep, find this, the quarter mark, and add those. Super simple. This, y'all, it really adds such a pop to this. I kind of want to put red thumbtacks on everything I do now. I don't I think I must have dropped that one. And once those are in, that's great. But like I said, that pointer, or whatever you would call the gauge meter, I don't know, the springy thing in there, just didn't pop. I wanted the eye to be drawn to it so that you could see like I said, I didn't need this to scream a statement, but I wanted people who look at this to be able to see that there is something in the center. So I can't even tell you what color red that is, but it was a red that most closely matched the color of those thumbtacks. And I'm going to spend just a little bit of time with a tiny brush painting that, making sure I get it bright enough and thorough enough. I am avoiding painting that little brass center part of the needle, because I did base some of the other elements in the box on that golden brass color. So once I get this painted, y'all, this project is done. I have 8 days of it. That brought me near the end of the project. I have one more project for my 100-day project, and that is it finally for all of this. So I'm going to give you some looks at this, some photos I took of it, and let me know if you've got any questions, or if there's something else you would have done with this not precious gauge, or anything. I would love to hear from you, and let me know if there's any videos you want to see from me now that I'm coming to the end of both iCAD and the 100-day project. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for spending this time with me, and I will see y'all later. Bye.